Coming up today on Locked On at Texas Tech, the latest on Red Raider football's General Manager Watch. And we also welcome Texas Tech Hoops to the category of Big 12 title contender.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 almost here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet only $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, kicking off another week after an action-packed weekend and anticipating an action-packed week. It's always something, and we've got a few different things to dive into today to kick it off. We will get to an update on General Manager Watch. Have you forgotten about this? Story last week reported on involving obviously a pursuit by Notre Dame of Texas Tech's James Blanchard. We'll check in on that, see if there is anything shaking on that front, and obviously still soaking in the glory of a Red Raider road win like few others or none others that I can recall as you take down Houston. And today, as we have just a second to catch our breath before the next Big 12 opportunity, Baylor coming to town tomorrow. Today, Chris, I want to look at some bigger picture kind of topics and items as it relates to now the category you're in, which I think is league contender category. We'll talk about some of these opportunities you have coming up. And as it relates to the basketball team, also want to get to some of the things that we saw make an impact in Houston, but not only there, several games this year and really just the year in and of itself. You've seen a supporting cast kind of round into form, and maybe there are going to be some more guys that actually join that as we get here a little bit later on into the season. But I want to talk about some of that production you've kind of been getting beyond the front line or beyond some of those foundational pieces. But man, sitting here beginning the month of February and really feeling like you're in a conference contender category, something that feels great, and not quite sure I actually saw this coming just a couple of weeks ago, Chris, but I don't think it's a lie that I say Texas Tech is a Big 12 title contender. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, you are now. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. And I'm like you. I didn't think you would end up being in this category. I thought you would be kind of on the fringe or, upper half and all these things, especially the way that the conference season started for you. But you've rattled off, what is it now, 5-6 wins in a row, and you've played your way in. But the Houston one is what now creates that dynamic, because, I mean, they had not lost. And Arizona keeps winning, and so it's just and then the crazy, I don't know what's the crazy result around the country, what Texas Tech did in Houston or what Kansas State and how they did it in Ames, Iowa. But that's all how we've ended up here. And so right now, as you wake up on this Monday morning, you've got two teams ahead of you in the league standings, Houston and Arizona. They each have one conference loss to you.
I was going to say Arizona's mostly kept winning. There is one blip.
Yeah. But they each have the one loss, yeah. and you've beaten them. So at worst, and you're going to play each of these teams again, and at worst, you're going to split with these teams at worst, because you'll have to go to Tucson this coming weekend. Very difficult game. Now that place will be juiced up and everything like that. And then obviously Houston will come to Lubbock in about 3 weeks or so. So, and then obviously you're the whole Iowa State scenario. Now they hold the tiebreaker over you, but you're ahead of them right now. And all these games now are about to be just massive, because you're still chasing, but you're in title contention without a doubt. I mean, there's just no way around it. Yes, you are. And you've earned that right. And I think Chance McMillan said it after the game on Saturday. It does send a message around the Big 12 that we're here. Yeah, yes, you are. Yes, you are. And it's, you've played your way into that the hard way by losing a couple of home games and going and pulling off what has been some phenomenal wins on the road and some of the non-sexy wins, but then the sexiest of all wins in the win in Houston, which is the holy grail of basketball wins this season in particular, based on the metrics and all the things. One of the most unlikely. I mean, you were a 9.5-point underdog at the time that game tipped, and I think leading up to the game, it gotten up to 11 or even 12 points, and then to do it with all the things factored in, with the odds completely stacked against you. But yeah, title contender for sure. And Kansas is the wheels have kind of come off a little bit. Now you still have to go to Lawrence, you still have to play Houston, you've still got to go to Tucson. Baylor here tomorrow night is going to be very difficult. And then you've got the tricky ones, the West Virginia games here, the Arizona State trip, and then them here, Colorado, all the stuff, because it's just hard to show up and have it ready to go every game throughout the season. But in this last 3 weeks-ish, boy, you sure have. I mean, you sure have. You just haven't, and without certain aspects of your roster and all, but you just keep. I mean, it's always something. No D5, no Overton, no JT at the same time, no head coach. Darion can't finish the game, and just all the stuff. But you keep doing your thing, man.
Yeah, and you and I were talking off the air about kind of the evolution of this team this year, and there's some things you just kind of forget about, or at least I find myself forgetting about as a fan, just considering all that has gone on so far this season. And I think coming into the year, you had really high hopes for this team, feeling like they could be a really good one. And then maybe through a portion of non-conference play or the entirety of that schedule, you feel like you didn't get over whatever hump with some of the bigger opportunities that you had. You open up Big 12 play in the way that you do, and you're kind of wondering, how overvalued you had this team this offseason, apparently. But then they kind of begin to figure things out, things like, what I'm referencing as far as forgetting, like a Devin Cambridge loss, that feels like several lifetimes ago now. But I think we are seeing, even through some adversity and through some unexpected challenges or hurdles to overcome, you're seeing the team kind of figure it out in some ways, or at least come together in some ways and play some of their best basketball of the season as we're getting later into this Big 12 schedule. But the ride to get here has been a really interesting one, in many ways an unexpected one. But I do remember that hype I was feeling in the offseason, Chris, where we talked about, like, man, can this be, one of the deeper rosters you've had, or can it be one of the more complete teams that you've had? Can you challenge in the Big 12 conference? A lot of that hype was checked. There were some reality checks through the early stages, or maybe midway through this season. But you're seeing some of that promise, I guess, or some of that potential maybe on display now.
Yeah, and I just have to credit like Grant, Kellen Buffington, everybody that put this roster together, because part of why you're doing what you're doing right now is you just have.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's calling the first touchdown, MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field throughout the game, and the app is super easy to navigate. And knowing that you can place only a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Bet only $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Is you just have no ego on this team. There is nobody worried about, I mean, like after the game on Saturday, you see Darion Williams tweet out a picture, and it's like my two goats, and he's like got a picture of EY and Kerwin Walton. It's like that kind of stuff right there permeates throughout a locker room, that there's no selfishness. There's no, and that's when this thing can be really beautiful to watch. And I think Grant even said that as much. He's like watching Emily Yalaho with the defensive stop at the very end of the game, and that caused the Juwan Roberts travel, is one of the most beautiful things my eyes have ever seen. Kind of like to quote the line from the line from Rudy, when the dad shows up and he's like, "This is the most beautiful scene that these eyes have ever seen." But that's when it's all working, and it's so pure. It's so and their ability to bring in the right chemistry pieces is right, as well as the right talent pieces, and knowing exactly, okay, we want to keep this guy if this guy leaves. And maybe you get a little lucky and maybe you're not perfect there. I don't know. But what we're seeing here has just been, and the work that they've done with him to get to this point, because it's just like Kerwin is the perfect example of this. And Grant mentioned this after the TCU game, because he's had some moments where it's just been a non-factor. Plays 5 to 7 minutes, doesn't score, doesn't record really across the box score. And yet he never wavers. His demeanor, he's like a robot. He just never changes facial expression. He shows up. He works extremely hard. He doesn't complain. He doesn't pout. He just keeps going. And then for him to drop in 4 threes at sixth ranked Houston, some of which were contested, and just bombs and rebounding like he did and trying to defend like he did and all that. It's a great example of why team sports are so much fun, and like why when it's working. And there's so many examples where it splinters or splits apart, or ego gets in the way, or selfishness gets in the way, or I'm happy about my minutes or my role, or I need more shots or whatever. And there's none of that involved here. And it's beautiful music, man. I mean, and they're playing. This little band of ours right now is in a stadium with 70,000 plus, and if they want to add more concerts to their ledger, and be like, hey, well, this one's sold out, this one's sold out. The big boy bands or acts, they just keep adding dates to the schedule. It's like, okay, well, there's the demand here. That's what you're dealing with here. It's just it's awesome.
They're in the pocket.
Yes.
They're in the groove. There's no doubt about it. I'm glad you mentioned Kerwin, because he's certainly one of those that's an example from this weekend gone by. But the supporting cast of characters we've seen kind of come into focus has been great to see. It's been vital, obviously, to Tech's success. And, some of them we've been talking about for an extended period of time, guys like Christian Anderson or Federiko Federiko, or, Kevin Overton during some stretches as well. But like you mentioned, seeing Kerwin come into form was, just what the doctor ordered at the right time. And we'd still like to see a whole lot more of it. But, the EY factor was unexpected, but next man up mentality. You want to be a next man up kind of team, and you wear that over the weekend. But the ones that have been there beyond Darion Williams, beyond, Chance McMillan or JT Toppin or even Hawkins, kind of those that you didn't have penciled in necessarily for this or that, but kind of learning to expect that out of them. Guys like Christian Anderson, I can't believe the expectation I have for him when he's on the floor and the ball is in his hands by this point in the season. Just kind of something I didn't see coming, but would be the envy of any coach to have that type of supporting cast that's been able to bring that to the table as consistently as some have.
Because as I'm sitting here thinking about it, you have won basketball games this season without JT Toppin being a part of it, without Darion Williams being a part of it, without Elijah Hawkins being a part of it, without Christian Anderson being a part of it, without Federico being a part of it. Am I forgetting Kevin Overton being a part of it? You haven't won. I mean, Chance McMillan and Kerwin Walton, I guess, are the two in your kind of rotation here that they've been there throughout, and have just keep coming through for you. But it's very rewarding to see. Think about the EY part of it. The worst possible scenario I could draw up for him is at Houston with no depth, and I need quality minutes from you with no plan B. and this is what we got, and he handled it great.
Yeah.
I mean, that is arguably the worst. Like, okay, you just conjure up some sort of movie script and go, okay, let's put this guy in a really tough spot. Like, what all can we? That's what you would have drawn up, and yet he handled it great. And like, yeah, I think we're probably, you and I, way past the point of like thinking Christian Anderson's a freshman. I mean, he's just. I mean, Kellen Buffington said this on the coaches show last week, but he is like, he's asked to describe Christian Anderson. He's like, savage. That's right. Baby face killer, whatever. But he's special. And we were pretty, I don't want to say like critical, but we just kind of wondered about Elijah Hawkins's role as we kind of got through this thing. He is a key part of what you were doing here, man. And watching like the play on Saturday that I was like, oh yeah, like if you could take this little video clip and paint the portrait, hang it in the Louvre type stuff, was early in the second half, I think, or maybe it was late in the first half, but he is on a break and he kind of has Kerwin on the wing and EY is running down on the other side. And Elijah there's one defender in the way, and Elijah looks at Kerwin and no looks it and drops that bounce pass to Emily Elaho, and it ended up being a dunk. And I think you got the whole goggles thing on that. That was like beautiful masterclass in point guard play in the open floor, and getting the young fella involved like that and rewarding him at the other end. I mean, just perfection is what it was. And and like he's got some of these Houston defenders on the ground with his step back, like that jab step and then dropping back and then hitting threes. I mean, that's special stuff, man. He's just so savvy.
And can't wait for this week. Ready to get back to the USA, and we'll be there shortly as Baylor comes to town. And then you hit the road, to find friendly confines elsewhere. Yes, I mean, they've been friendly to you all over the map so far. So I guess maybe I got to quit talking about the road as being as daunting as I used to think it was, because it's just easy breezy for these Red Raiders. We'll see, though, if they can continue that trend coming up this weekend when they head to Tucson. We'll obviously get back to the Red Raiders and set the table for the Bears on tomorrow's episode. So hope you'll join us for that. And before we get out of here on today's episode, Chris, got to check in with you as it relates to the football program and the news that we were discussing a week ago, the possibility of another significant change this offseason for Joey McGuire's Red Raider football program, that being a potential change with your general manager. Notre Dame reportedly making him a number one target, that being James Blanchard, in their pursuit after their general manager was hired away by USC. We talked about this last week, and just to kick off the new week, man, this was significant news and still could be, I suppose, one way or another, depending on how it goes. So I had to check in with you and see, what was developing over the weekend or what your feel for it was coming out of the weekend. So what are you anticipating in some, I don't know, minutes, hours, days, weeks to come?
Yeah, and this could be resolved rather soon here, and I'm not sure what we're talking about. I think Texas Tech's stance is that they're working through it still. I think if at some point this will just have to be a decision on ultimately what Coach Blanchard, what he wants out of this and his family and all that. Texas Tech can pay whatever they want here, and they would do it if they felt like it was the right thing to do. But I think there will come a point to where they won't go that route. And I know they've already identified 3 to 4 potential candidates if Coach Blanchard were to leave and all that. And so that's already kind of you're going to be just fine. And as much as you love what Coach Blanchard has done here and what he's built and the relationships that he's got and all that, I mean, this is part of the business. And so we'll see. But again, if he were to leave, I think it would be Texas Tech's choice ultimately to go. Yeah, I mean, good luck to you, and you go from there. But as far as like sense of urgency and where things at, I mean, you've got plenty of time here. I think you're trying to get it right, and Joey would have to. It's a collective decision on the folks that help fund these kinds of things and the relationships, and ultimately what do you want to get done. So we'll just kind of see what. And again, I just say this: this is going to end one of two ways. He's going to end up with a new job in South Bend, or he'll end up with a new contract here. But I think that there's a point where Texas Tech's only willing to do so much there, and that's their choice. And if they want to match it, they absolutely could, or whatever. But I just think that they did that last year, and I think if somebody's looking for something else or a new challenge or a different part of the country or whatever, they will tip their cap, and away we go. And then you'll start to see what direction Joey would go and all those things. And what it all means, big picture, I'm not real sure. Is it change the way you ultimately do things? And there's plenty of conversations we can have once this does get resolved, and kind of look into this a bit more. And I've got more things to say there. But right now, that's kind of where it stands.
So is there it kind of sounds like maybe is there some frustration on Tech's part to be back in this position, or is that just kind of the nature of the beast?
I just think it's part of the business, and people are going to want your people. And again, I think that Coach Blanchard's salary was essentially doubled last year as they went through this song and dance. And I just think if you're going to keep doing this, at some point you just go, hey, maybe this isn't what you want to do, and or this is what this job pays here. And if you're looking for whatever, so. Yeah, I don't know if the right word is frustration. I just think it's kind of an understanding of like, hey man, we totally get it. There's a want for you elsewhere, and like good luck to you, kind of thing. If that's the way this thing unfolds. And again, I will double down on the fact that the Red Raider camp here, they can pay whatever Notre Dame is paying, if that's what they were to choose to do. I just get the sense that maybe they don't want to, if that's what it comes down to.
Gotcha. All right. We'll keep an eye on this, and maybe some resolution coming up around the corner. Chris, enjoyed it as always, man, and looking forward to getting back to a game day edition on the other side as we'll get ready for more hoops coming our way, and back from United Supermarkets Arena as the Red Raiders look for their 7th consecutive win now with Baylor coming to town. So we'll get ready for that one on the other side. Looking forward to it, man. Appreciate the time as always, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it. Hope everybody enjoys their Monday.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And a big tip of the cap to the everydayers for always riding along with us. And shout out to the Matador Mob. If you're interested in becoming a Matador Mob insider, hit the show notes for a link to a free 14-day trial. Try it on. See how it suits you. Does it scratch you where you itch? It just might. You never know. And that's your direct line to Chris and myself, with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. Thanks for the time as always, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.